This is ShamanWeaver Sheila Baker. So it's a new year, and 2017 for me, this is my perspective, and I've got someone here with me who's got his perspective, so we'll talk about that in a moment. And so my perspective of last year, 2017, was one of getting solid, looking at priorities, looking at values, and looking at beliefs, and having that stable core of deep knowing, deepening your intuition. And I did a course in that. It's 6 weeks, and it's a beautiful thing. So you might want to look into that. And in that time of getting to really know myself, I feel like my core got strong. I wasn't necessarily engaging with outside banter, but I was becoming gelled. And from that place, and you all had this as well, there were lots of things going on last year, but looking inwardly and looking at your values and beliefs, it was in our face, and so it's hard to miss. So looking at that and coming to terms with that, coming to a deep knowing of who am I, then we get to turn into this year, which for me, it's an 11 year, which for me is mastery. And it's also a 2 year, which is relationship. So it's not relationship just to, it's like the word ahomatakweasan, the interconnectedness of all beings. So this particular year for me is relationship year, relationship to people, relationship to nature, relationship to coffee, relationship to sex, relationship to love, relationship to all that there is. And so I've asked my sweet friend Ray Couture to join me today to give us a perspective of the eclipses that are coming up. And so I'm going to give you a tip before he starts. His website is astrologicalperspectives.com, so you can check him out there. Oh, wait, it's .net. So Ray, say hi to the nice people.
Oh, hi, nice people. How are you? This is Ray Couture, and I'm really pleased to be here with my friend Sheila Baker. What is it that is on your mind, my dear?
Ooh, so what I want to know, thank you very much, that was beautiful. I want to know about the eclipses, because I hear that there's some major transformations going on between now and spring equinox, and I love following the wheel of the year, and this winter is really deep introspection and hibernation, and then from that place, like I talked about a minute ago, of the core in relationships. So can you talk about the relationship of the eclipses and what it means?
Well, in relation to the idea of eclipses at a given time within a given constraint or structure, let's look at it from the perspective of the entire year and then sector it off for January till the first day of spring, the equinox. Eclipses in general are agents of transformation. The simple reality behind eclipses is that you have two kinds. There's a solar eclipse and there's a lunar eclipse. Now, in most cases, you have a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse followed by yet another lunar eclipse. On average, that's about half the time, although some years you have more than others. But the first eclipse for 2018 is in the sign of Aquarius, and it's the lunar eclipse. So on so many different levels, the moon is a representation of the people of a given country or a given world. It's also the concept of what ego is, and when you look at it that way and you look at the particular degree of the lunar eclipse, it is in the first 10 degrees, it's the 11th degree of Leo. So when you're looking at signs, everybody says, what sign are you, what's your rising, and so forth, and very few people really know what that is, so I won't go into that. But the whole concept of Leo is validity. the whole business of authenticity. And when you have an eclipse that is in Leo and it's of the moon, you're going to experience in your personal daily life on one level or another a question concerning your validity. And not so much your validity as a human being, but your validity in terms of whether or not you are authentic in your creative self-expression, you're authentic in your relationships. And that is important in this particular first eclipse, because when you do the chart for January 1st at midnight, you end up with a Libra rising, which has a lot to do with the whole concept of relationship. It has to do with justice. It has to do with everything that deals with harmony and disharmony and all those kind of things. But that's the path that we're all on. Now, as we go along on that path of relationship, we need to be able to recognize what the eclipse is doing. It's telling you what is obsolete about your authenticity. You're no longer authentic. You need to be more authentic if you want to be able to have a real, important, and nurturing relationship.
So that's very interesting, because a couple bits ago, what I got was it is time to get real.
Yeah.
And now you've figured out what some of your beliefs are. And if you haven't, it's time to get around to do that. Sounds like this is a boost for us to look at, are we being real?
Look at ourselves. I mean, the question you need to answer, whether you do it at the deepest spiritual level or just simply your daily life, who am I?
Absolutely.
That is the question. And with an eclipse, there's an opportunity to really revert to your real self. Because we're all involved on one level or another, whether it be because of our jobs or because of our relationships with other people, and in one way or another trying to please everybody else. And so it's time now, not so much to please yourself, but to figure out who you are and whether or not you're really just trying to hang on rather than have a real relationship. So authenticity is get real.
And doesn't it actually start within? I mean, isn't this about, if you're going to get real, having a real relationship with yourself? I often think that, we spend more time attempting to relate to someone else. And I mean, this comes down for me all the way to relationship to food and relationship to your body as a temple. And really, coming down to all those basic beliefs about, am I worth taking care of?
Well, the thing is, this is an eclipse of the moon, and the moon, aside from its representation as ego, and there's no need to explain that right now, but the idea is your relationship to yourself is trying to get an answer to the question about who am I?
Yeah. So that reminds me of Don Miguel Ruiz's 5 agreements, and somehow that tied in just cognitively for a moment ago with the star card. Don't make assumptions on yourself. Talk to yourself nicely. Be impeccable. Do your best. Speak your impeccable word. And listen to yourself, but be skeptical. Sometimes we're not very nice to ourselves. And that who am I gets beaten up. So you honestly don't really know.
It's also not accepting BS from other people.
Oh, how about that, eh?
If you're going to really relate to yourself and get an answer to the who am I that is more than just I'm an American, I'm an earthling, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm Jane, I'm John. If you go deep enough to the who am I, then you're going to recognize the necessity for you to just ignore BS coming from other people, and that makes you freer. It makes you more able to indulge in your life, in those relationships with food, those relationships with other people, the way you wear your glasses, how you put your clothes on, all of it. Just everything becomes a process of enlightenment. I am putting on my clothes now. Awareness is probably a better word to start with, because enlightenment has had a bad rap.
The thing is, it's about being present, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got the lunar eclipse, and then what?
Well, the lunar eclipse, insofar as where it's occurring in the astrological sky, it's in that part of the chart that has to do with the relationship.
Oh, imagine
That part of
that.
the sky has to
Uh-huh.
do with the relationship. And the quality and character of that part of the sky has a nurturing quality because it's the sign of Cancer.
Oh,
And then the
that's me.
moon is still in the same area, but it's in Leo. So if Cancer is authentic, how could Leo not be?
Ah,
Right? So it's a matter of like, Cancer is fine, nurturing is fine, but no BS, right?
oh, I
Not
like
on,
that.
on your
Okay.
part. Then
Yes.
the other eclipse that is happening in February, and it will be towards the end of Aquarius. Aquarius is the third air sign. There are three of them. The first air sign is Gemini, and it creates the whole process of social. Air is a social thing. Gemini is an air sign. There's an internal dialogue. You have a social relationship with yourself. I'm good, I'm bad, I'm good, I'm bad. Yes, no. And then you proceed to Libra, where that internal struggle and dialogue becomes a social condition, where you have laws about how to behave and so forth and so on, and you have relationship issues and all of that. And then you get to Aquarius, and it says, baloney.
Right on.
I've had it. I want to reform everything. I want to change everything. I want to make things so that everybody is treated equally. So when you have an eclipse in Aquarius, and it's the solar eclipse, the whole willpower of an individual has to be involved in breaking away from the old patterns and traditions of how people associate and relate to one another. So it's sort of a revolutionary thing wherever it happens in your chart. And the sky is divided into 12 dimensions of your life. Places where you breathe, and places where you relate, places where you make change, places where you have family background, all of that. And I don't know where this happens in any individual chart, but in the chart for the moment that it takes place in the Seattle area, okay, it's in the area that has to do with higher consciousness.
Hmm.
So there's got to be a revolution with regard to what in the heck, in fact, is higher consciousness here. And the cusp of this same area is Aquarius, so the quality of it is transformation. But the planet that rules Aquarius is Uranus. And Uranus has to do with the process of guiding the ego into surrendering to work for spiritual growth.
Ah, so this is beautiful. I was just talking about this the other day, and the way that I talked about this is, and I think this is what Gary Zukov said, well, I'm paraphrasing, when the ego comes to serve the soul, then, well, I don't exactly know the rest of that. Do you know the rest of that? What happens then?
Well, what happens then is a paradox. You are becoming a gateway for spiritual forces to travel through your being into the world around you. As an ego, you actually understand that you don't really exist, that your identity is a constructed identity out of all the people you've ever known, the family background, the place you were born. They all look at you and say, that's Sheila. And from then on, you're Sheila.
Mm-hmm.
But you never were and never will be. Because the presence of a body means you're going to be surrounded by people, and that develops an ego, and an ego is not who you are. So the idea of the ego surrendering to the spirit just simply means that the ego takes care of taking the dishes and the laundry and paying the bills and all of those ordinary everyday things. All
So
the
you're
while, the spirit is functioning.
Yeah, so the spirit and the ego actually come into right relationship.
Yeah, they come into a relationship.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So I'd like you to figure out how to make this useful for yourself. It appears as if we're going through an ego crushing. Transformation. Yeah. Think about yourself as a caterpillar. Who doesn't want to be that? And then turning into some kind of an amazing butterfly. So this transition that you're making, now you can do it from a place of consciousness. You can do it from a place of awareness. And thank you so much for joining me. I'm Shaman Weaver Shiela Baker. If I can do anything for you, shamanweaver.com. Bliss.